Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. You heard the news that Drew Brees retired. We all expected it, but your first reaction was what?
Well, I did hear that news. Let me say I was not surprised by it. I think the States weren't surprised by it in any of the conversation that I've had with people around the league. The league wasn't surprised by it either. I just think it was time. It was time to celebrate his career. I think Drew and his family wanted to do it his way, and therefore there was a little lull in the action before it came out. But hey, I think it's a celebration. It's not the end. We're talking an all-time great here, and maybe the most important person to ever play for a particular NFL franchise. In other words, he did more for them than any one player, I think, did for their team in the maybe history of the league. So I give him all the credit and all the accolades. Everybody needs to enjoy what they've just seen for the last 15 years.
We've been doing that for a couple of weeks now. I'm sure you've done this exercise many times over the last 15 years, but when you were in Miami and, of course, Drew Brees, I guess, failed the physical, I'll let you tell the story, how different might history have been? I'm sure you've thought of that, about if Drew Brees did end up a Dolphin.
Well, it definitely enters my mind every now and then, that's for sure. In fact,
right.
for several years when I would go to Alabama and talk to Nick on occasion when I was doing some scouting stuff, we often would say, hey, if we had passed him on that physical, or if our doctors had been okay with him, we'd probably all still be in Miami. So you may not have seen the Alabama football legacy go to the next level like he's taken it, and the Dolphins may not have fell on some hard times. Of course, there's many things in between. I think you're kind of slighting the Saints by saying that. What they've done with him is special. Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis, that crew has been outstanding, and there's no guarantee that had he ended up in Miami that we would have duplicated the same success that they've had. So you just got to give them credit, and hey, that's the cost of doing business. That's the way our organization was set up, so we had no choice in it. We had to do what our doctor said, and we moved on.
I'm sure you've told the story, but can you tell for our audience that story from your perspective of how that all played out with Drew?
Well, it was a recruitment that started well before free agency started. I can tell you that. I guess they won't find me from the league office at this point, but yeah, we had met in Indianapolis. We had done our reconnaissance on both ends. I know the opening morning of free agency, Nick and I flew on a private plane to Birmingham, had breakfast with Drew and his wife on the street corner where he was rehabbing his shoulder during that time. Everybody remembers that he had come off a major career-threatening injury in San Diego, and some doctors had issue with it, some doctors didn't. But we went and saw him, felt the need to do that, and then kind of mapped out the next several days, and of which he was going to end up in Miami. That all happened according to plan. He ended up going to New Orleans first, and he came to Miami. He actually even recruited a couple offensive linemen for us while he was in town. But the next morning, after Tom Condon and I had kind of put the parameters of the deal to bed, our doctors and our medical team just said, hey, we can't allow this. They gave us, and I don't remember the exact percentages, but they were low percentages that he would come back and be what he once was. And it was just too big of a risk for us. Our doctors were good friends with our owner at the time, Wayne Izinga, and it wasn't up for debate. It wasn't like we could fire the doctors and hire new doctors. So we went with their recommendation, and gosh, within 2 hours, I think Tom talked to Mickey, and they had a deal in New Orleans. So it worked out for them. Didn't work out great for us. We ended up making a trade for Dante Culpepper a couple of days later, and it was ironic that he was coming off a knee injury that never healed, and he was never the same. So our doctors passed on that one, passed him on that one, and didn't pass Brees, and the rest is history.
Randy Mueller is our guest, former Saints and Dolphins GM, but an NFL executive with the Seahawks and really for more than 20 years. But while that is such an important part of Saints history where that crossroads was, Randy, you were also in New Orleans as the GM for, a piece of history. I was talking to Rick Venturi a few weeks ago, and he was kind of recalling it. Like, I wonder if people remember. No, people in New Orleans still revere Hakeem dropped the ball and the Saints' first ever playoff win. and you were, I mean, obviously the general manager of the team at that time. From your recollection, how do you remember the 2000 season, which was so special and still is so special in these parts?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I spent 35 years in the NFL, Matt, and that was the best time of my professional life, and I have no problem saying it, were the 2 years I spent in New Orleans. I had come off of really 20 years in Seattle, and when Mr. Benson hired me to run the team, it was a great honor and a pleasure, and the fact that we were able to turn it around so quickly and do what we did, just the whole mechanics of how it happened were special. That season, like you mentioned, was not only special for the fans on the outside, but we felt it on the inside. It was a great year, and like I said, probably the best couple of years of my professional life. And I enjoyed it. My family enjoyed it. Louisiana, accepted us, and my wife and I grew up in a small little logging town in northern Idaho, and for them to accept us was awesome. And I always have a soft spot for New Orleans. I always like to go back there whenever I can. But it was a great year. Jim Haslett was named Coach of the Year. I obviously had won the Executive of the Year award. So it was pretty special for all of us, that's for sure.
A couple more minutes here with Randy Mueller. And then obviously you only spent 2 years in New Orleans. I don't really remember. I mean, I was in school at the time. How it ended with you in New Orleans was maybe some friction with Mr. Benson. Do you ever look back and wonder how it might have been different? How, after a year removed from winning NFL Executive of the Year, you might have had a longer stint there with the Saints?
Oh, all the time, because there was no friction. There was no issue between Mr. Benson and I. We got along famously, and he had offered me a contract extension a couple weeks before that. So this is all pretty much public now, and I had been on a marketing junket throughout the whole Gulf South for the last week, and we really never got to talk about it. And I actually went into the meeting with him once I got back, thinking that we were going to extend the contract, and I was happy there. My family was happy there, and it turned into a resignation meeting. So again, I have no ill will, no hard feelings. It was his decision to run the company any way he wanted, but we never had a cross word ever, and he treated me like a son. So that may even make it harder for people to figure out and connect the dots, but I'm with you. I don't really know to this day how we went from where we were to how it ended up. That's for sure. I would have loved to have been there a long time.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.